Hi guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So we're here now to have a bit of a play really with using up things that have turned out to be a kind of crafting mistake, if you like. I'm planning on doing this as a little series. I hope that I'm going to have enough content to actually build a little series. Obviously, until I get started, I don't really know. But fingers crossed that we're going to be able to kind of do a bit of a little series here with this. So basically what I've brought along for this one, I mean, this is all part of trying to get on top of my very, very messy craft area. I'm trying to use up things that I have bought in the past that actually have turned out now really to have been just crafting mistakes, really. I'm sure that I'm not alone in buying things that then you think, you know, what am I going to actually do with this? I'm sure that probably a lot of us have done those types of things in the past. Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of recycle and reuse really, rather than just ditch and dump. So my item that I have got here with me today is I had bought these chipboard buttons. Now I bought these such a long time ago because it was the last time we visited America, which, you know, I've said before was, I mean, I can't even remember really, but maybe 7-8 years ago. It was a really long time. They are still sealed, and I had 4 packets of these. I had a green based packet, a blue base packet, and this black and white packet. I also had a purple packet, but I've put that straight in a bag to go to the school. So I thought I would see what I could salvage basically before just, you know, giving it all away really. I had seen a fantastic video by Pam at the Paper Outpost where she was altering brightly coloured buttons. So we might do, you know, something like that in one of the episodes as well. And I just thought, I could do that with some of these chipboard pieces. It's not the thickest chipboard. I mean, I think these were in like a kind of budget range. They might have been like $1 or something. They were really cheap. And so they're not, you know, really sturdy or anything like that. But on the plus side, they don't add a lot of bulk to your work either. So, you know, it's all good really. So what I'm going to do, if I just move these, you know, shaped ones out of the way. And obviously in the packet, sorry, I forgot to say, there are a range of shapes and sizes. So you've got square ones, heart shapes, all different ones. So I've predominantly picked the circular ones that are sort of most conventional, like buttons. And then I've got my circle punch here with some of the other shaped ones. And I thought I would try and punch some circles. Now, this chipboard, although is not, you know, the best quality chipboard, it's still pretty thick. As you can see, I'm having to literally guide this round inside my punch because it's so thick, it's like wedged in there now. But my punch is still punching through it, as you can see. So now to obviously try and struggle to get it out. And please, please don't use my methods, you know, and then injure yourself, because I'm sure that this is not a recommended method. You know, thank goodness I don't have like a health and safety department or something in my house, because I'm sure they would be, you know, mortified at my technique here. And it's now completely wedged in, which this had not happened obviously previously when I tried these out. So I've just got my pokey tool where I've got a bit more control and could obviously get that out. So that's that one. Now a lot of them obviously were too small, or the shapes would have cut into the circle, so obviously I couldn't use all of them actually. And I've just threaded that in, and what I needed to do was cut the edge off so that I'm making this small enough to be able to get it into my circle punch, whereas otherwise when it was like the flower shape, it just was too too shaped to, you know, to be able to cut it in. So that's that one. I mean, it's probably not doing my punch a great deal of good, but, you know, there we go. So that's that one. And this one here. So again, I'm just going to flatten the edge to be able to get that into my hole punch. Oops, like that. Now ordinarily when I use chipboard, I generally tend to, if I'm going to be sticking something on it, I generally tend to peel the glossy top layer off. But as I say, this is not the thickest chipboard in the world. It's, you know, it's quite flimsy. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to punch these two now because it's probably like watching paint dry for you guys. So what I'm going to do instead, and purely this is because by peeling the top layer off of such thin chipboard, I think it would turn out, you know, a bit flimsy. I'm just going to take my sandpaper to the surface like that, like that, because that's going to just give it, hopefully anyway, enough of a what's the word, like a scored surface to be able to actually glue things to. So I'm just going to go through and do that on a few of these. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but because I started off card making and then I, you know, ventured into scrapbooking and then I did some, you know, fabric-y type things, I ended up buying a whole bunch of things each craft, and I now obviously have, I mean, predominantly stickers, I have to say, and you know, stickers are obviously maybe going to prove my toughest challenge of how to use them up. I mean, again, I could just kind of bin them all, but that just seems such a waste. I mean, I wouldn't bin them, I would obviously, you know, take them to the school or something like that, but if I can try and think of a way or some ways to alter them and be able to use some of them, you know, then better still. So that's my plan. Okay, so we'll just go around a few. Right, very frustratingly, I just knelt up just to check that I was actually in frame and all the rest of it, and I discovered that I hadn't been filming for about 7 minutes. So let me give you a recap of what I've done so far. Obviously, we had sanded down the buttons so that they would be able to glue onto some book page. I've just used a couple of different book pages, and all I did was used my Mod Podge. For some reason it just naturally comes out Mod Podge, to glue it onto the book page. So I will just show you one. I mean, obviously it's not rocket science, and you know, I'm sure that you all can imagine what I mean by, you know, what I did, but just, you know, just so that I don't sort of miss anything, because I hate that when I would like to learn a technique or something and then somebody's done a piece without me seeing it. So I'm just going to stick that onto there, and I've just held it up to the light just to make sure that I am actually in the text section and not a blank section. Okay, so that's all I've done, obviously, with all of these. And as I say, I mean, that was kind of about 7 minutes. So, you know, these are sort of drying now. So I'm just going to leave them to one side whilst they dry. And then all I did otherwise was with my sanded down, so I'll just sand 1 or 2 more down so that I can just go through the stages again. And I'm going to actually stand up or kneel up every few minutes now to actually check the situation of my videoing. Right, still videoing so far, so that's all good. And then all I did, now I've got the rougher surface, was obviously inked up my button surface with my vintage photo distress ink like that. So that's, you know, that's what these 3 look like. Okay, and then all I was in the middle of doing was I pulled out a stamp Now this one, hopefully you can see this, so let me lift it up to the camera. It's a teeny weeny postcard stamp. I mean, I've had it for yonks, so it's super, you know, super old, super used. It's quite brittle actually. I could do with the new sets. I think this was from some Stampendous stamps. I think they were called something like Little Charms or Charm Collection, something like that. And I'd kind of, you know, wanted them for ages, finally bought them. Some of them I really loved, some of them I wasn't so fussed by, but overall they were a really, really good set of stamps. So if I just take my stays on, let me move that paper out the way so you can see a bit better. Can you see? I mean, that size of the text is teeny weeny, really small. So in fact, just perfect for going on our little buttons, which hopefully you can see that there. So just go over a couple more. Okay, so that's all I'm doing with those ones. And then all I'm going to do now is take my glossy accents and then I'm going to just make them glossy. So I'll just run my glossy accents around. And I thought, oh, I'll try and avoid the, you know, the buttonholes. Where did my very first squirt go? Straight into the buttonhole. Just typical. Right. Now, I need to now find something to put that on. So let me just pop it on here. So this was just some other book page that I had brought along for obviously this project. So I would just leave these now to dry. Like that. Might even have enough on my finger to just lightly go around this one. It's not going to be the thickest, glossiest button, but it's okay. The others actually might even be too glossy, so. Okay, so I've just gone a bit lighter on that one as well, so it's just got a lighter, glossy sort of sheen. The others are pretty thick on there. I'm going to pop those out the way to dry, and I mean obviously they're not going to be dry before the end of this video. I'm just standing up again checking I'm still filming. That's so frustrating when that happens, and I don't know what that was about, whether that was another one of those updates. Right, so these now, I mean the only plus side is obviously I had filmed for 7 minutes, so these are quite dry now. I'm going to cut these out now as best I can. Now, I'm not brilliant when it comes to cutting out circles, so I go round as best I can. Might as well do the 3 of these. Like that. Do that final one. Like that. Okay, and then because obviously they're a little bit jaggedy at the edges where I, you know, haven't done the best job of cutting them, I just like to go around the edges and just sand them off a little bit, and that just totally, you know, I mean basically disguises and camouflages any jaggedy pieces, you know. It just gets them off really and tidies it up a bit. So there we go. Oops. And then this one. Okay. And then before I ink it up, what I'm going to do is take my pokey tool, and where it's got the holes, I'm going to poke it through this way. Obviously that's made it look tatty on this facing side, but I've done it so I know where the holes are, and then I go back through the holes this way, Now I'm quite lucky because my poker tool has got, it's got the thin nib, and then it's got this kind of like, I don't know what you'd describe that as, like a cone kind of shape. So I can get that pretty well into those holes, pressing it in, if that makes sense, and make them look, you know, reasonably neat then. So they look like, you know, the buttonholes should be again. So I would do that on all of them. And again, you know, I literally just punch them through on this side, just so that I can see where the holes need to be. Then go back through from this side to make it look neater. Oops. That one. And that one. Okay, and then this final one. And obviously I've got these to do, and I've got the others on the side still drying, but I mean, obviously you don't need to see the same thing over and over, I guess. So just going to just do these ones just to give you the gist of it, really. And then again, I'm just going to take my distress ink and ink around the edges so they look really nice now. Lovely and vintage. Now Pam, when she did her, you know, her proper buttons, they weren't these chipboard ones, she then kind of rolled her little pokey bit around and then inked the hole a bit. So I'm just going to do that on these, because that does then emphasize the hole. And actually on mine, I'm going to take that right to that sort of coney section, because then that really, you know, it's really easy to do, because that's just the perfect size for poking into the holes. So like that. And then that one. I'll just do this one again because it's not very dark. Right. Okay, I mean, don't they look cute? They look really good, don't they? And then what I might do now, so again, I just now need to nip off and grab my gold paint. So hold on 2 seconds. Oh. Now luckily, because I have, you know, been trying to get up on top of my mess, I know exactly where my gold paint was. No, joking aside, I did always know where my paints were, but they just weren't stored very neatly. But I'm a messy crafter here, so I'm just going to use my finger. So just dab it off, and then just going to go around the edge of my button in the gold. Like that. There you go. Okay, so you could do some gold, some, you know, some plain. If you wanted a little bit more impact, you could always go around with something like a stays on. So I've got here some timber brown stays on, and I can just go around that with the stays on the edge, and that gives a completely different look again. So, you know, you really can kind of mix and match, and, you know, just change them as you want to change them. So I'm going to take my glossy accents again and just give them a bit of a sheen again. So like that. This one. Go for this one. Oh no, probably ruined that one completely now. Oh, it looks okay. And then on this one here, like that. Now this is where I could do with that Blue Peter style of saying, now here's some I made earlier that I would obviously be able to pull in that were dry. However, sadly I was not that organised and I do not have any that I did earlier, so they're very much not dry, you know, which is a bit of a shame. So I'm just going to pop those on there because I was going to finish them off with just maybe some thread or something through them. Instead, what I'm going to do is just poke through where that glossy accents is, just so that I've got holes to put my thread eventually. This one, it's just there. Okay, I think that one's okay, so it's just this one. Just poke my holes through like that, and then that one. I mean, this is a bit like watching paint dry, I do realise that. Okay, so hopefully all of my holes are good now. So I'm going to leave them obviously all to dry, and then we can come back and obviously then just put some threads through to finish them off. But I think they look really cute, so I hope that you like them. Right guys, I was doing something else and obviously still then, you know, here, so I thought I'd just see whether our pieces are dried enough to be able to get on and, you know, thread the threads through. So luckily they are. I've got my little bag of threads here to the side, so that's what I'm rustling about in. I'm just selecting the colours that I want. Oh, I thought I had a whole bunch of threads that I started using, but apparently not. I could have the blue in the blue, I guess. I've got a little bit of leftover black. So let's take, do we want this one? Let's just take this one, and then all I'm going to do is, oops, thread it through the two holes like that, and then let me cut this down so I'm not dragging the whole piece of embroidery thread around. And then I'm just going to knot that once that way, and then once that way, like that. I mean, actually these are, you know, big enough to carry off a little bow. Whether or not I can carry off making a little bow, you know, tiny enough, remains to be seen. But, well, it's not too bad, although to be honest it's not too good either. I'm probably better off just doing the knot, I think. So, and then obviously this is embroidery thread, so you can separate the threads a little bit so they're looking a bit more scraggedy. I mean, these buttons obviously have got giant holes. You know, that's how they were purchased, with the giant holes, but it's pretty cute, isn't it? And obviously I've only threaded that through once because I didn't want to bulk the back out, so that can be glued down relatively flat now. But, you know, you might prefer to actually have yours threaded through sort of multiple times. So if I do this one, now I'm never sure with these 4-hole buttons whether you're supposed to go side to side or like a crisscross. I mean, I don't know whether there is actually a correct way or not, but I just do whatever I fancy doing at the time. So for this one, let's just unravel my thread a little bit. Oh, come on. I'm going to need my poke tool, I think, to be able to get the thread through. Now, really, I should have obviously threaded this onto a needle. I didn't, because I thought, oh, the holes are quite big. You know, I'm going to be able to do that pretty easily. In hindsight, it's turned out not to be quite so easy as I thought. So, I mean, hindsight's always a wonderful thing, isn't it? There we go. So, poke that back down. poke it up here again into this side, like that. Oops. And then down this one. Come on. Can you see how that thread's now just getting longer and longer and longer the more I work on this? And then I'm just going to pop it up through the final one again, or, you know, what was one of the first holes. Like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to knot that. Oops. Like this. So, come on, come on, come on. Right, I mean, this is obviously the types of things that I find very, very fiddly now. So please excuse this part of the video. And obviously you can have your threads as long or as short as you want to have them. And again, you can obviously then, you know, undo them a little bit and have them a bit more scraggly and separated. Oh, come on. Okay, so that's one with just then a little kind of scraggly one. In fact, I prefer it short, so I'm going to cut this one down as well. Like that. Okay. So I just wanted to quickly come back on and just demonstrate how they would obviously look with your threads through. I won't sit here boring you all to tears threading each one, because obviously I'm sure you can see well enough how they look. But the good thing is they're obviously quite flat now to be glued onto your project. So hope that you like them, and hope that you might be able to use up some of your similar sort of chipboard pieces. I mean, again, as I say, you don't have to have these round chipboards. You could have anything that's chipboard and, you know, draw around something round, or use your round circle punch and make some of these. And obviously then you could punch your middle holes with the small hole of your crocodile, or, you know, even if you punch them through with something like this and then just, you know, press them to make them bigger. There's plenty of options of how to do different sort of size pieces. So yeah, I hope you're going to join me again for another one of our use up craft surplus supplies, let's call it. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again soon. Thanks then. Bye.